The second commandment says, "You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God." What does this mean? We should fear and love God so that we do not curse, swear, use satanic arts, lie, or deceive by his name, but call upon in every trouble, pray, praise, and give thanks. You notice in each of the explanations to the commands, there's both a negative side, things that we should not do, and a positive side, the things that we should do in order to keep the command. In the explanation for the second commandment, it begins by saying we should not curse God's name. Cursing God's name is by using it to blame or call upon punishment or hurt or destruction for another person. Not only for another person, but often, many times for ourselves. You'll see so often in work and school and everyday life that when bad things happen, oftentimes people are invoking the name of God as if it's his fault for the things that have happened, when oftentimes we are the sole person to blame. The second part is that we should not swear. Now, when we swear, we invoke the name of God to say that what we're about to say is the truth, so help me God. There are times when we are permitted to swear by God's name and even required to do so. For instance, when we give a testimony in court, or when we take an oath of office, or also in wedding vows. But there's also times when swearing is forbidden. For instance, when it is done falsely, thoughtlessly, or in sinful, uncertain, or unimportant matters. So oftentimes when people are telling a story, they'll say, "I swear to God, it is the truth." When maybe they don't even know if it's the truth or not. This is just the story they heard. Or maybe they just want to add emphasis to prove their points, when in fact they know the reality. It isn't true. The third part is, you shall not use satanic arts. Many people might think that satanic arts are doing some devilish thing that, I wouldn't do. But oftentimes, people are using satanic arts, or they're thinking lightly of them. Even, for instance, when you open your newspaper and you see the horoscopes, and you think, there's nothing bad if I just look and see what it says for me. But the thing is, once you read those words, the very next thing you think is, I wonder if this is true. Is God trying to tell me something? This is very dangerous because it's seeking God and seeking his advice or his word where he did not promise to be found, and also in places where he said, don't seek for me there. Don't seek for answers there. Seek to know me from my word. The same thing when people do palm reading or any other sort of fortune telling. Fourthly, the explanation tells us that we should not lie or deceive by God's name. How is this done? Lying and deceiving by God's name includes when people teach false doctrine and say that God has said such and such, or giving a false revelation. There are people who say, I had a dream and God revealed to me such and such was going to happen, or such and such is the truth, when they don't know if God really said that. The fourth part of this explanation says that we should not lie or even deceive by God's name. How do we lie or deceive by God's name? We do this when false doctrine is taught, not only from the pulpits, but when we're speaking to our neighbor. When we say, I know for certain that God has said such and such. As the Bible tells us in Jeremiah 23, God says, Behold, I am against the prophets, declares the Lord, who use their tongues and declare, Thus declares the Lord. If there's anything that you say in the name of God, or by God's revelation, you should be absolutely certain that it is true, or you are deceiving someone in God's name. But also when you cover up an unbelieving heart or a sinful life by pretending to be a Christian. There are so many statistics that in America, people saying that 83% of the population is Christian. And yet we know, not only by their lives, but even by church attendance, that 83% of Americans are not Christians. They are deceiving others when they don't even know Christ. But we also deceive in God's name when we raise our hand or we confess before another person, oh yes, I'm a Christian. And you might be wearing a cross and you tell other people that you're a Christian, but at the same time you don't attend church, you don't read the Bible. We have talked about some of the negative things, the things that we shouldn't do, or the ways that we sin against the commandment. But what does God want us to do with His name? How should we use it? The Catechism tells us we should call upon His name in every trouble, pray, praise, and give thanks. Oftentimes on Sunday, people will come to church with their petitions and requests and lay upon God's ears their troubles, their burdens, their sicknesses, and their needs. This we are even commanded to do, as Psalm 50:15 tells us, call upon me in the day of trouble, I will deliver you, and you shall glorify me. Oftentimes it's very easy or more common for people to ask God for help when things go wrong. But we should also remember to give thanks to God when He helps us. Psalm 118 verse 1 tells us, give thanks to the Lord, for He is good. His steadfast love endures forever. It's true that every good thing that we have, every good thing that happens to us, it's not because of our doing, it's because of what God has done for us. Therefore, we should use God's name